What's up everybody, today I want to talk about one of the best leveling builds for rogues in Season 5 that will take you all the way from level 1 to 100 easily. And it's a double imbuement Barrage build. Barrage was one of the strongest and most fun builds last season. And with the buffs to imbuements in Season 5, when we imbue our Barrage arrows now, the leveling speed is incredible. While leveling, you can blast a World Tier 4 in a couple of hours, and then once you're in World Tier 4 and you're geared, you can easily start farming the Infernal Hordes, high nightmare dungeons, and start working on bosses way before you hit 100. So what's the build and how does it work? If you've never played Barrage build, we work off of the imbuement and the combo point system to superpower our Barrage attack. We imbue our weapon with either Poison for single targets, which got a massive buff this season, or Shadow for AoE. And then we release this massive barrage of arrows that split off, they ricochet, and they just deal massive damage. And then the way the combo system works with this is, as you do basic attacks, then you will build up your combo meter, and then when you use a core skill, which is Barrage, you will trigger the combo effect. And the effect for Barrage means you will fire additional arrows. So once you've built up your maximum amount of combo points, you'll deal 8 total arrows, and they all get a damage buff. On top of this, we get 3 Dark Shrouds that trigger automatically without needing to have it on our bar or cast it, and we also use the new buffed smoke grenades to trigger extra poison damage. So there's a lot to cover here. I'm going to go over the full build in detail. It's all linked down below as well, but let's get into it, starting with the skill tree. Okay, so here's the build. It's all linked down below. It's got the skill tree, the Paragon Board, aspects, the stats, all that stuff on it. And let's start here. Right. Let's open up full screen. First up, we take a basic skill and we go for Puncture. The reason is every third cast deals a slow, which we can do some crowd control, extra damage to later on. We gain extra energy when we do it. And then we get this here. Every third attack can make enemies vulnerable. And we get huge things in our Paragon Board, in our glyphs, and in our tree, and aspects that deal extra damage to vulnerable enemies. Then we go down to our main and we put 5 points into Barrage. This is our main damage. 5 arrows that all go outwards and deal huge damage, and they ricochet for increased damage. We enhance it, and then we take Advanced Barrage. Whenever a single cast ricochets at least 4 times, your next one gains increased crit. And we have so much extra damage that comes from our crit. Okay, we'll put 3 points into the passive here. Critically striking an enemy gives us movement speed, which is huge while leveling because we can get around faster. We take 1 point into Dash, which is again is a good movement ability. And as we dash through things, we slow them, which again, we're building into that more crowd control build. We take points here, enhanced, increases your crit strike by 10%, which is massive. I don't think there's anything worth putting a point into here. There's knockdown, which is okay, but I think it's better putting points elsewhere. 3 points into weapon mastery. Things that are really good here is if you manage to pick up a bow while leveling, that's increased vuln damage. And if you pick up a crossbow, that's increased crit damage. Again, there's damage for swords and daggers as well. Moving down, 5 points into Dark Shroud. Now, while leveling, this might seem overkill a little bit, but this is one of the best defensives in the entire game. This is one of the best constant defensives. Up to 5 protective shields that give you, when you've got 5 points, 9.6% damage reduction per active shadow. And you will have that almost consistently. Each time you take damage, that damage is reduced and a shadow is consumed. You take 1 extra point here. Each shadow also grants you 5% increased movement speed and has a chance not to be consumed. And then while you have at least 1, you gain 10% crit. This used to be 2, I believe, and I think the crit strike chance has gone up as well. So this is better than ever. This is just so good. And the best bit is, we have an aspect that means we don't even need to have this on a bar. You never cast this. This is just a permanent movement speed, crit increase, and damage reduction that you don't have to worry about. Then we take smoke grenades. You throw it at an enemy, dealing 45% damage and dazing them. Again, a little stun. Then we take increased damage when you use it. And then this big one, this is the new change in Season 5. Smoke grenades now deal poison and applies another 45% poison over 5 seconds. So anywhere we can play with poison, which I'll talk about down here, we get that here from our smoke. Then we take this, you deal increased damage to healthy and injured enemies, and then you deal 12% increased damage to vuln or knockdown enemies. Now, vuln is the main thing here. Don't worry too much about knockdown, it's mainly the vuln. 3 points in each of those. So coming down into here, we have the imbuement tree. Now, let's talk about poisons first. 5 out of 5 in poison imbuement. Your next 2 imbuement skills deal poison damage and apply 140% of their base as poison damage. Casting it generates energy, which gives us that more uptime while we level for more barrage. And then crit strike deals 75% chance increased poison damage. Perfect. 3 points here gives us 9% increased poison damage, which also triggers with our smoke as well. And then 1 point here, dealing poison damage increases your attack speed. If we had more points, we'd put more points here. If you really want to put points here, you can take some out of your defensive here. If you're feeling that leveling's just easy mode and you're not getting hit, you're not struggling, you can take some points out here and top us up to 3 for a bit more damage. Then we take this here. Imbued skills gain 9% increased crit strike chance. You can see we're building up to a lot of damage here. Then we take Shadow. Imbue with Shadow. Infected enemies explode, dealing 40% damage to all surrounding enemies. You gain increased crit against enemies injured with Shadow. And then Shadow Imbued makes enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. Then we take these here. You put 1 point into this to get to this one. Each time you kill an enemy with Shadow, you generate energy. Again, if you're finding you're having energy problems, then you can put more points into there. But with how we use the combo system, we want to be using our basic skill. And every time we use it, we generate more energy. So you don't really have a need to 3-point that. You can if you want. I never found we needed it. Then moving down into here, we don't take an ultimate, but we take this. While moving, you gain 5% increased energy regeneration to get into here. 3 points in here. While above 50% energy, gain movement speed. While below, gain 15% attack speed. This is massive, massive. When things are going good, you're faster. When things are going bad, you deal more damage. And then finally, down here, we go for precision. Each marksman skill grants 1 stack of precision, or 2 if it is critically struck, which it will a lot in this build. When you reach 4 stacks, your next marksman, core, or ultimate, which is our barrage, is a guaranteed crit that deals increased crit. This is massive, and it scales with your crit strike bonus. So you can see the 3 things we're aiming for here. We're aiming for poison damage, we're aiming for crit damage, crit chance and crit damage, and then we're aiming for vulnerable. They're the big things here. That's what makes this build so strong and so good while leveling. But that's it. That's everything. This is how I have my skill bar set up. We got puncture, barrage, poison imbuement, shadow imbuement, dash, and then smoke grenade. You see we have no dark shroud here, and our specialization is combo points, which we've already talked about. Okay, let's talk aspects. On the helmet, we go aspect of might. Basic skills grant 20% damage reduction. If you don't build a rogue correctly, they're very, very squishy. Unlike, sorcerer, druid, barbarian, lots of other classes, we don't have shields or these big fortifiers as easily. So having good damage reduction is a good way to avoid that. And with this and with the dark shroud, you'll breeze to 100. It's more than enough. On the chest piece, we take Umbrus. Lucky hit, crit strikes have up to a 60% chance to grant a free dark shroud shadow, and that's how we get those free dark shrouds without having it on our bar. Aspect of corruption on the gloves. Your imbuement skills increase damage against vulnerable enemies, which we've seen we can do a lot. Aspect of the protector. Damage an elite enemy grants you a barrier. There isn't a great deal you can put on the pants slot, but this is like another defensive we can squeeze on there. Hectic on the boots. After casting 5 basic skills, one of your cooldown is reduced, and because we're using the combo point specialization, we're going to be hitting that a lot. Then we take on the ranged weapon, aspect of branching volleys. Increase the damage of arrows that ricochet from barrage up to 80%. Arrows also have a 60% chance to split in 2 whenever they ricochet. This is just turning that damage into massive AoE. You're turning barrage is like of arrows, and this just makes it a massive AoE as well. So this is just huge damage while clearing dungeons. On the amulet, we go high velocity. Barrage arrows now also pierce, and they have increased attack speed. And then on the ring, we go arrow storms. Your marksmen have up to a 25% chance to grant an arrow storm, which means whenever we do our barrage, we get an arrow storm at the enemy location, dealing physical damage over 3 seconds, and they deal increased damage. There's lots of things to go on the ring, and if you play rogue a lot and you have something really good on your ring that you want to keep, that you like in your build, this is the one to replace. This doesn't fit perfectly in this build, and if you're looking for something to improve on, that's a thing you would swap out. I really like this. This is like my preference. I really like the arrow storm, so I put it in. But yeah, this is the one you'd move off. This one you would keep. When casting an imbuement skill, you trigger explosion around yourself, applying the imbuement and dealing damage of the same type. This is huge damage. So yeah, this is the only, if you were going to change things out, I'd look at changing the aspect of the protector and arrow storms for something that you prefer more. On the other weapons, you go expectant. After attacking an enemy with a basic skill, increases damage of your next core skill. This is the perfect combination to combo points, because that's exactly what we do with combo points. We hit them with basic, switched up to core for increased damage. Accelerating, critical strikes with core skills increase your attack speed. So what that means is, as we shoot our barrage, we're going to crit a lot with that. Once we do that, we get attack speed buff. We switch back to basic, super fast basic, straight back to barrage. Really good combination. And that's everything. There's lots of uniques you can get. I'm going to make a second variant on here and just show some good uniques that go along with this build as well. But as it's a leveling build, I don't want to talk too much about uniques because they're pretty random as you play through the game, and until you're like super farming bosses, it's hard to guarantee them, whereas most of this you should have as you level. Okay, now let's go over the stats and the tempering and all that stuff on your gear, because this is what takes you from struggling to defeat things that are your level to being able to take things on that are like 20 levels above you. So first up, let's go over the ranks, the different things we're looking for. So the main one is on your gloves. You want to be getting ranks to barrage. That's your #1 damage dealer. To try and get ranks to barrage if you can. You want ranks to dark shroud on your chest piece, and ranks to imbuement skills on your helmet. You can also get ranks to poison imbuement and things like that, but ranks to all imbuement skills works just fine. On your Neck ranks to malice is good, ranks to weapon mastery is really good. They're the main things I'd be looking for on your gear that give you ranks to certain skills. After that, some other good stats to go for is dexterity. In Season 5, core stats have been buffed, so we get more of a benefit per point of core stat than we did before. So every point of dexterity is now worth a lot and gives us a much better benefit than before. So every time you can get dexterity, that's a good thing to take on. Another thing is armor. This is, we're a rogue, we're a bit squishier than the classes. So getting armor, max life, or getting resistance to all elements all help out a lot. We do definitely feel like rogue struggles a little bit in that area. The other things is crit strike damage, where you can get it, and crit strike chance. They're the big ones. This is how I've laid it out the best I can. For the ring, assume what you get on ring 1, you put on ring 2. Same with the weapon. When you get on weapon 1, you put on weapon 2. We'd be going for a bow for crit strike, and we'd be going for swords for crit strike as well, because that's where all of our damage scales. But that's the main things. I've put rough things here of what to look for on each item, but again, tailor it to your build. If you are in a position where you're at the armor cap, don't be taking armor on your gear. If you're in a position where you're at resistance cap, don't be taking plus to all resistances. This is a good guide. It's a good outline. It's very well balanced. It's what I'm using, but don't feel like you have to follow it to the T. Just look at your build and see what you need if you think something doesn't look right, but this should get you there. Next up, the tempering. And there is a lot we can do. I'm going to start down at the bottom with the weapons. So first thing, on everything, we get three weapons, and every single one, chance for barrage projectiles to cast twice. It is our main damage dealer, and we can do it 3 times. So take that on weapon 1, weapon 2, weapon 3, all of them. Then for offensive, I would just take crit strike damage. So much scales with crit strike damage on this build, and we have so many ways to proc crits that crit strike damage is just incredible. So it's marksman's finesse. So take that on all 3 of your weapons. Then I'll go back to the top here. What we want to do is, where we get defensives, a really, really good one to look for. Well, defensives and offensive. For defensive, you can get max life when a Dark Shroud is active. Because of our high crit chance, we're always going to have a Dark Shroud up, pretty much. So we're going to get that max life all the time. So wherever you get a defensive, that's a good one to take. Similarly for offensive, you can take damage per Dark Shroud, which is really good. Another offensive is crit strike damage. That's what I'd be looking for there. On utility, every single position where we have utility, what you can take is chance to blah, 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 blah for 2 seconds. Doesn't matter what you get. Chance to stun, chance to slow. It's a crowd control. It triggers all the things that are like, when to crowd control enemies to increase damage. Take less from crowd control enemies. That all triggers it. So picking it up wherever we can get it, the chest, the pants, the helmet. Yeah, all these different places give us more damage. Where you have resource, you can take poison imbuement, lasts longer and has more cast, things like that. But yeah, this is everything I've laid out. Again, it's fairly balanced. I've also chucked in 1 armor and I think 1 life in here. So yeah, this is pretty balanced. Movement speed on the feet, reduction there as well. A good balance of everything that should swing you all the way to max level with no problems. You shouldn't be getting one shot anywhere as you're pushing things. There's a buff in Season 5 where if you fight things up to 30 levels above you, you get more experience. So this should help give you that damage, give you those defenses. Okay, now for the Paragon board. And the main thing to know here is we've gone for 6 boards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I've gone more into the legendary nodes than the glyphs. You can do this thing where you chain all the boards together. You barely take anything, any of the boards, and you try and do like 7 boards for 7 glyphs. However, I've tried to go for more legendary nodes because I feel like it does a lot more for this build, and it does a lot more for you while leveling. So we've gone for 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5 legendary nodes and 5 glyphs, which is really good considering you only have 200 points. But we don't get those extra glyphs. If you do want to go extra glyphs, you would chuck off boards like this. You'd chuck off you'd cut off from like here. You'd cut off from around here, and you would just go and get more boards. You would like go out here and you would get another board and put a glyph in if you wanted to do more glyphs. But this is for more legendary nodes and it works really well. So let's go over it. First board, we go up both sides, like we go up and around and we go back down, and that gives us damage, and it also gives us resistance to all elements, which we are short on a rogue. Going up here, I went with a combat. Every 5 int, you gain 20% increased crit strike damage. One of our #1 things we're looking for. Skills at crit strike, restore energy. Huge. Then up the left side for extra damage. Onto the next board, we go for Eldritch Bounty, and we go up the left side and we hit the legendary node Eldritch Bounty. We turn the board this way as well. We hit Eldritch Bounty. When you attack with an imbued skill, you gain max resistance, which is important. and 20% increased damage for that imbuement's element for 9 seconds. You also get all the increased imbuement damage here as well. And then we do a trick here where we leave this board and then we come back in it later. We go all the way around and we come back in it to get the glyph. Okay, because those glyphs are pretty good. So then we come out here and we go into Cunning Stratagem and we go straight down and we get the legendary node. Your non-damage combo point bonuses are increased by 33% when you spend 3 combo points. Massive. And then we head across here. We grab all this here for core skill damage, which is our Barrage. And we hit here for Fluidity. Grants 150% bonus to all magic nodes within range. And when you cast an agility skill, you deal increased damage and gain increased energy regen for 6 seconds, which lines us up for our big damage. And then all of our core skill here gets buffed. So you see we've got 7% core skill damage, which is our Barrage, which is perfect. We also get armor and we get more core skill damage there. Moving up, we go to Exploit Weakness and we go up and around. We hit the node. Exploit Weakness gives us hitting a vulnerable enemy has a chance to increase your damage, which is perfect. We head out left and we grab Tricks of the Trade. When this is like a flip. So when you do like, I think it's a dash, when you do like a dash, then your Barrage will deal more damage. When you do like a Barrage, then your dash will deal more damage. You're kind of flicking between the two to empower so that you can set up this big Barrage damage. Then we head across to the other side. Well, we go back to this and we finish this board. We go for Canny. For every 5 int, you deal increased damage. Non-physical damage increases all the non-physical damage an enemy takes, up to 10% for 15 seconds. And get this here, extra vuln damage. I wouldn't bother with this little cluster here. Heading out, we go for Cheap Shot. You go down and you get the glyph, deal increased damage for each enemy that is crowd controlled, up to 25%, which is perfect because we've got so much crowd control. Then we head down and we get this node here and we go for Efficacy. Grants bonus to rare nodes, and imbuement skills have 20% increased potency. Then we get increased imbuement skill damage down there. And that's the main thing we're going for there. Then we head up and we get the Exploit, which is our vulnerable. Every 5 strength increases damage to vulnerable targets, and when an enemy is damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. We already have enough things that trigger vulnerable. This is just another, meaning that all this stuff that gives increased vuln damage triggers. We can get increased damage to crowd control, damage reduction from slowed enemies, all that stuff. But the main thing to know is these are the 5 glyphs. These are the 6 boards. But this is not just a leveling build. It is a leveling build that still holds its own very well once you hit 100. But yeah, that's it. If you like this style of video, do consider subscribing to the channel. I make builds for all sorts of classes every season. I've got loads more coming. And if you've got anything to add, let me know down below. If there's anything you change, if there's anything you do differently. There's a couple of aspects that could definitely be changed that I'm still trying. Obviously, we're very early into the season. I'm still trying new things. But if you've got anything you would recommend changing or anything that you think works well, let me know down below. That's it for this video. Take care, everybody, and I'll catch you in the next one.